Do I look like I care about the conceptual, idealistic, but also realistic questions the show asks about financial slavery in our modern capitalistic world? No. I just want to see some boobs and some buzz. So I binged Squid Game a few days ago, and I have good things to say about it, but I think I should talk about the issues first. Now, my fundamental problem with Squid Game is that it isn't fair but was intended to be. Firstly, if you look at the obvious physical differences of men and women, it's neither fair for the women nor the men. In the episode where they all start killing each other like farm animals, the women and the physically weak men end up dying, and some people don't even get to fend for themselves because they get slaughtered in their sleep. How is that fair? Which brings me to my second point, the lack of transparency. The first game, as we saw, was red light, green light, and it's the game that killed off the most number of players. If I'm thinking right here, it's somewhere over 200. Simply because they didn't know what the stakes were. Nobody at the first game knew that the penalty for losing was death. How is that fair? Thirdly, I'm very angry with how they killed off Kung Sibyl. I was about to intervene, but then I came to my senses. Now, a friend of mine pointed this out, so shout out to Scoop. She won the 5th round, but was injured by a pompous show of a climax. She too was helpless against odds beyond her control, because she got stabbed by a flying piece of glass, man. And it wasn't even part of the game, man. How was that fair? And lastly, and I can't believe that I have to point this out, but any competition where luck is a determining factor is not fair. If these people had good luck, they wouldn't be playing the South Korean Hunger Games to begin with. Now, my second issue with the Squid Games is that each player has a base value of 100 million won, which seems a bit unfair. Some of these people are indebted to paying back more than billions, while some others owe less than 100 million to the outside world. So what would have been fair is that each player's value was their debt. If they had no debt, then their base value could be 100 million. My third problem is with the protagonist, Song Dong-sa, or as I'd like to call him, Ding Dong-sa, because this idiot won like $45 million, and instead of doing something good with it, he gets his hair dyed like a 16-year-old girl with PTSD, and the fart head squares up to the squid people. The reason that bothers me is because he wasn't forced to go back. He went back a second time knowing full well what the challenges and consequences would be. He chose to do everything he did, yet he refuses to take responsibility. But at the same time, it's difficult to judge the morality of any situation or person on the show. Are the antagonists really villainous if they give you the choice to leave? Can you justify killing your loved ones if the choice is you or them? Shit, this show put the most sacred of all relationships up to the task. Would you kill one of the homies, knowing damn well you could have chosen not to? Frankly, I'm glad Song Dong-sa didn't kill Sang-woo and Sang-woo committed suicide, because in that moment they both morally redeemed themselves as heroes. Sang-woo sacrificed his life, and Song Dong-sa was willing to sacrifice his pride. So by the end of the show, we as viewers have no one to blame except for our governing bureaucracies and democracies, because the system is what made these people desperate. The system was already choking them before they found the Squid Games. Also, the Pakistani guy was played by an Indian. Like, bro, are you trying to catch these biryani masala? Personally, I think the writer did a really good job of balancing out each and every single character's arc. Because if you think about it, each and every single one of these characters could have been the protagonistic perspective. And that's where the writer's talent shines, being able to make all these stories matter and letting the viewer question whose narrative they want to support. You decide who's really evil. Except this guy. This man was completely diarrhea poo-poo. The fact that the games took place on a remote island was perhaps to symbolize the social division between the ultra-rich and the desperately destitute, and the fact that so many people die on that island might be a metaphor for how us as the impoverished will always squabble amongst ourselves while the rich rule, decide, and entertain themselves. Essentially, it's a much exaggerated, concentrated, and confined representation of the same social dynamic, or something. I don't know what I'm really on about. What truly sucks about the show is that now for the next 2 or 3 Halloweens, everyone's gonna dress up as either that one grandma from your local gym or a PlayStation controller button. And I really hope that they don't make a season 2, because like I said, I don't want them to ruin the realistic questions the show asks about financial slavery in our modern capitalistic and consumer-driven world. Dubai. Dubai. If the creators of Squid Game sell out for another season, that would ironically go against one of the core messages of the show, which is that selling yourself isn't worth it.